please welcome David Osborne.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. How are we doing on that fundraiser? Any updates? 11,000, not bad. We got a little work to do. Let's keep going. My good buddy Hal Elrod, I think, just gave 5,000, so you get to hear him in a little bit. So look, it's an honor to be with you here today. I am focused mostly with you today on the idea of transformation. That's where I want to start, is transformation. And so I'm going to share with you some hacks, some ideas, some processes that have helped me transform over time. I believe that our conscious mind is the weakling of our being. Our conscious mind is the weakling of our being. You can write this down. The implicit system is my friend. The implicit system is my friend. Now, before you think I'm going all woo-woo on you, this is based in pretty solid scientific study. And the studies say that your conscious mind, the explicit system, processes information at about 5 kilobytes a second. The subconscious mind, also known as the implicit system, processes information 99% more with more power than the conscious mind. So in other words, 99% of you right here, right now, is unconscious. 1% is conscious. So my question is always, knowing that I'm basically a series of programs given to me by my family history, my family of origin, where I was born, my culture, basically a series of programs that run either effectively or ineffectively every day. So my question to myself is always, what do I have to do to reprogram and get that 99% power? Think of it this way. Your conscious mind is like a snail, and your subconscious mind is like a jet airplane. Hopefully it's not a 747 MAX. So your subconscious mind has all the power, but we think we're our conscious mind. So I'm going to give you a few tools and techniques and ideas on how to transform yourself. And to put it in perspective for you, I want you guys to know that I was a dork in high school. You know the difference between a dork and a nerd? Nerds are intelligent. My claim to fame, what I was good at, was it soccer, football, baseball? No. I was good at Dungeons and Dragons. Anyone else play Dungeons and Dragons out there? One or two guys are too afraid to admit it, but some did. So I played that through age 20. So I was a dorky, goofy kid, right? I was also not really a workout guy. My brother was an athlete. I wasn't. He worked out all the time. I didn't know much of anything. I was afraid to speak in front of 10 people. I was kind of a little bit of a rebel in school. And I certainly didn't know how to lead a business that is as large as the one that I'm fortunate enough to lead today. But through the process of programming, pain, process, over time I evolved and changed as a human being to where today I run a large company, and today I'm comfortable speaking in front of you guys, and today I'm in better shape than I probably was in high school. So how did I do that? How did this occur? And again, it's luck, it's study, it's other people sharing great wisdom with me. But the main thing that I really bite into and I really get is that it's about the power of your unconscious mind. It's the power of spirit. It's the power of something bigger than yourself. So here's what I'm going to do to prove it to you guys. Just take a minute. Everyone close your eyes. And I want you to think about something that really inspires you. Close your eyes and think about something that really turns you on. Maybe it's your spouse in a negligee, which would be kind of weird for the women, but maybe good for the guys. Think of something that turns you on. It could be a trip. Is there somewhere you want to go? Is it the Grand Canyon? Is it Tuscany? Think about something that turns you on. Is it a car? Is it a new set of shoes? Think about that. Okay, now stop, turn to the person on your right, and tell them what it is that inspired you. Or tell them this thing that's inspired you second most. All right, so come on back to me when you're ready. Some of you are really inspired. So that was, to me, the beginning of tapping into your subconscious mind. See, I believe our journey is one of finding out what turns us on inside and then bringing it out and sharing it with the world. It's easiest to do with vacations and toys and things, but it's also just as easy. I don't know about you, but I was incredibly inspired by the kindness of the team up here looking after that family that came up just now. That was inspirational. Giving back is inspirational. Being a great father is inspirational. Having health for a lifetime is inspirational. So my belief is the beginning of tapping into your unconscious mind, your implicit system, is literally taking a journal, going somewhere peaceful, and just writing down all the things that turn you on, all the things that uniquely make you you, the things you would like to have in life. See, I believe we can live a life either of fear, of defensiveness, of control and oppression, fearing loss, fearing losing the good things, fearing things being taken away from us, fear of failure, or we can live a life of expansion, openness, growth, and development. You don't really have a choice between the two, and we're going to vary back and forth depending on what's happening to us circumstantially in life. So I don't know about you. Who in here would like to choose openness, growth, and expansion and amazing things, right? Okay, good. Almost everybody, except for that guy right there in the back, but I understand. So that life, then how do you find it? Like, how do you transform? So you take all these ideas and you write them down. And you write down all the things you want. Great health, great relationship, great parenthood, great financial success, and you write them into specific goals. And then what I've chosen to do each year is to take those goals, and again, all of this is learning from other people. I didn't invent anything of this, but I apply it pretty effectively, and I put it into what I call my annual flight time, my annual flight path. If any of you have ever been a pilot, any pilots in here? Yeah. So when you fly, let's say you were flying from here to Austin, Texas, do you just like lay out a plan and go? You lay out the plan, and then what happens? You change, right? Constantly, right? You got a little headset on, they're telling you, hey, deviate 1 degree left, there's a storm, go 1 degree right, there's some air traffic, go to the left. Or you say, hey, can I have a more direct route? That's what your flight plan is. So you write down all the things you think you want to do, you put them into a goal sheet. I've got a kind of a rough version of it at a website called thegoaltemplate.com. So if you go to thegoaltemplate.com, you can pick this up. But anyway, this is my flight plan. So I've got 2019 locked and loaded. I'm excited about 2019. In fact, we just hit the first quarter, and there's the last quarter, and then here's the next quarter. And what you'll see is my goals are an interactive, living, breathing document. So these are my goals in the 8 areas of life. So what I've tried to do is stop thinking, get my brain, which is the weakling of my being, out of the way so that I can have an abundant and amazing life. What I found back when I was more dorky and back when I was more insecure and more neurotic and more nervous was that I could never think my way through my problems. I could never think my way through the anxieties and the fears that I had. I couldn't use my mind to think my way through the problems. I just lay awake at night watching the ceiling fan spin and feeling nervous and apprehensive. But what I found is if instead of trying to think my way through my problems, I just got up and said, what do I want to come out of this situation? And I wrote down action step, action step, action step. Then I went back to sleep, and then the next morning I got up and I started acting on what I had decided. I began to make progress. And what I began to realize is thinking is only useful as a tool to get you to where you want to go. It's of no use at all to just let your mind wander and roll around and to destroy or dominate your life. Because your mind is really just a collection of old programs. Now I realize this is probably not what you expected to hear today, and I realize I've gone a little bit off the reservation, but I'm telling you, this is what I've found to work. For me to grow from who I am to somebody better than who I am and to somebody more, I can't think my way there with the existing thoughts that I've had from this current lifetime. I have to find a way to transform to someone new, and the best way to do that I've found is action. So these 8 areas of life, these 8 gardens of life are the following for me. I put family first always. And the reason I put family first, my wife, my kids, is because that's honestly the area I used to struggle with the most. When I was building my business and when I was working, my wife said to me, dating you is like being in the back seat of your car when we were dating. She still married me. I said, well, why would you marry me? Why would you be with me? That sounds crazy. And she said, because every now and then you put me in the front seat and it feels so nice. So it was always a struggle for me to come back from the excitement of making money and building businesses and doing stuff in the real world and then slow down enough and settle down enough and be in the family. So I always put that first. Secondly, then, is spiritual contribution, finding a way to make a difference, doing the inspirational things we did, meditating, prayer. And then there's physical workout, keeping your body right. Intellectual adventure, intellectual to grow your mind, adventure to give you more experiences, the tribe, who you hang out with, and then your personal financial material. So again, writing all the things down. So what would I do? I would write down, be a better father, be a better husband, right? And then what does that look like? Because that's not really a goal, is it? It's an intention. And when we do our goals, we get lost a lot of times with intentions. And I do a lot of analysis of people's goals, right? So people will have me coach them on their goals, and I'll say, that's great that you want to be a better father, but it's just an intention. It doesn't mean it's a great intention, but it's not specific. What does that specifically mean? And so specifically being a better father means what? Being present to your children, being with them, giving them time, right? So then you might say, okay, I'm going to spend 1 4-hour session a week with my kid. Or what I try to do is once a month take my middle daughter for a 4-hour session where it's uninterrupted, no electronics, whatever she chooses to do, right? We do a lot of little stuff too, but it's really knocking down the big things. With my wife, it's obviously the date nights, trips every year, one amazing epic trip every year with my wife. So all of these are things that came from that inspiration that we started with into goals, which then became action steps that I could act on. There's so much in business that I don't really need to hammer it. This is all my business goals, but you guys already know, right? We're in the real estate business, so it's about prospecting. How many hours of prospecting do you do? It's about contacts, it's about calls, it's follow-ups. All of those things which are like hunting that lead to other things. For health, it's pretty easy too, right? Like who doesn't know how to be healthy? You know, in the book Miracle Morning Millionaires, which I wrote with Hal Elrod, we put in the beginning that making money is like entering a game show. And you're in that game show, and the guy says, door number 1 or door number 2. One of them has $1 million behind it, and you just have to pick the right one. And you're thinking, wow, 50% chance of $1 million. This sounds great. I should probably say 10 million, right? Because some of you might already have $1 million, but it's 10 million bucks, 50% chance. And then, to make it even easier, the commentator says, by the way, the money's behind door number 1. So that's what wealth is. Wealth is that easy. Because if I asked you, what does it take to be healthy right now, what would you answer? Well, give me some answers. Throw out some ideas. What does it take to be healthy? Anybody? What? Eat right. Nutrition is actually more important than exercise. Thank you. And what should we eat? Greens. That's right. Verdure, as I say to my kids. That's Spanish for vegetables, I think. The nanny told me so. Eat your verdures. Eat your greens. You got to eat greens. You got to eat a lot of vegetables, living, breathing things. What else should you do? Drink a lot of water, right? Water's probably the most important food. What else should you do? Everyone knows it, yeah. Would you get rid of stress? A certain amount of stress is good for you. Cindy, is that you? A certain amount, but not too much, right? No stress is actually also bad for the system. Did you know that? Like complete sedentary no stress is bad for your body too. But extreme stress creates cortisol. Cortisol is bad for you. In abundance, it can lead to a heart attack, right? So lower your stress, eat right, plenty of vegetables, and I think someone must have said exercise, right? Exercise, and what kind of exercise? It doesn't really have to be that intense. Low impact exercise is better than high impact exercise, right? So, you know, running a marathon every day may not be the best thing for you, but running a 3-mile run, or actually the low impact ones are rowing, bicycling, swimming, cross-country skiing, so low impact on your joints. So now I told you all that. You already knew that. I didn't tell you one thing you didn't know. The same is true of building wealth. How do you build wealth? You go out and add value to the marketplace. You make money. You set a budget. You live below your means. You take your excess money and you invest it wisely in something that generates a return. Millionaire Next Door stuff, or Robert Kiyosaki, How to Get Wealthy. So you know all this stuff. So what's the dilemma? Why aren't we doing it? And I would tell you the reason we're not doing it is because we're not harnessing the power of the 99%, which is the subconscious mind. You cannot think your way to success. So what's a way you can switch that? So we wrote the Miracle Morning Millionaires together to talk about what you can do in the morning. Win the morning to win the day. So why did I love Hal when I met Hal? And I heard him speak, I was like, wow, I'm already doing stuff like this. I'm already meditating. I'm already having affirmations. I'm already setting goals and reading them on a regular basis, but I've never put it together in a succinct little 6-step process called SAVERS. Silence in the morning, first thing, which I use for prayer. By the way, I think prayer is one of the most powerful ways to access your unconscious, right? So how do you access your unconscious through prayer? You just say, look, God, or whoever you believe in, I want to be my intention is to be a better father. So please, please, please help me to follow through with that intention of being a better father. What have I just done? I put all this goodwill into my subconscious. I've created a state that I can feel just now, having just said that, my willingness, my desire, my innocent, open desire to be a better dad. And it makes me proud of me to be that, but it also makes me connected to something bigger than myself to help me get through my own weaker programming from that unconscious history. So, silence, prayer, affirmations, meditation. Anyone in here meditate? Good for you guys. Like, I've tried it. I'm like about 30 seconds in. Anyone have that experience? Who's tried it and just, well, I'm still working on it, right? So my subconscious hasn't caught up with my desire to meditate. So silence in the morning to kind of peace your body, get rid of some of that cortisol and slow things down. Then affirmations. Today I'm going to be fully present to my kids. This morning I'm going to get up, I'm going to make my wife breakfast, or I'm going to make her coffee, or do something kind for her. I'm going to be present to my family, first things first, in the morning right when I get up. Then affirmations. I'm going to go be of service to the clients I meet today. I'm going to be of service to the business I meet today. Just a repetitive intention, a affirmation. Getting past all my junk, maybe I'm feeling a little sad because something happened. Maybe I'm mad because I had a fight with my wife. All of that is gone, because in my affirmations I'm resetting the day. I'm setting the day with my intentions and my flight plan. Visualizations. So usually I use this for, I might close my eyes and see myself laughing with my kids at breakfast in the morning. Or I might see myself seeing a killer client that day. If I have a very important meeting, I'll close my eyes, see myself stepping into the room, being of value to the client, delivering whatever it is that they're looking for in the marketplace that I have to offer. So that's the first three. Then it's exercise, reading, and scribing. Here's the cool thing about exercise. You've only really got to do about 45 minutes of exercise to get yourself in a good state. It doesn't have to be crazy. The difference between an Olympic athlete and a regular person that exercises on lifespan is very little. The difference between somebody that does nothing and somebody that does something is massive. Right? So exercise doesn't have to be. Sometimes for me, I just do my conference calls walking around the neighborhood. I try to get to 5 miles in the day. Maybe do 100 push-ups on top of that. That's close to it. That's good enough. I mean, again, remember, if you don't work out at all and you set the goal of like running a marathon, you're so far in what you're setting that you might discourage yourself. If you just said, hey, I don't do anything right now, so my goal is to take a conference call and walk around the neighborhood for 20 minutes, you have now moved yourself towards that ideal self you're trying to create, and I would give yourself credit. So all I do is I put 240 workouts on here, and every time I do one of them, I just give myself a little check mark. Now, by the way, I've been doing this for 25 years. I had years where I was not plugged in, where I didn't tune in, and I've had years where I'm on it. Right now, I'm on it a lot. I'm really capable of this. Put this journal in my library, and I get to look at it every morning. And I'm on it because it's so fruitful for me. Like, it's become so fruitful. Like, at first, it was stutter, stop, be hard to get, go and get the procrastination, not really look at it. But today, I'm like a productivity monster. I look at this every day. I see where I'm on track and off track. Not every day, probably 2 or 3 times a week, really. The new thing I bought is the Peloton. Anyone got a Peloton? I love that thing. Yeah, me too. I love it. So I ride that. My goal's 100 times a year. I travel a lot. So that's the goals, right? That's the health goals. So when you get your body right, there's a paradigm that I want to set for you that I believe in, which is sort of yourself first, your relationship with your wife and your wife second, your partner second, your relationship with your children third, and then your relationship with work and everything else fourth. So if you can accept that as a paradigm, if you don't look after yourself, you don't really have anything to offer anybody else. Secondly, your partner. Your partner is your most key relationship, your most important relationship. Can you get that right? Then looking after and loving your kids. And then finally, business and everything comes after that. You could say God, family, business. This is just a different way of looking at it. So from my point of view, what I ask myself is, does my schedule reflect that on a continuous basis? So I ask myself, is my schedule reflecting that? So silence, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading. And reading can be audible or it can be physical. And what's great about reading is you've got the wisdom of the world at your fingertips. I'm listening to things constantly on Audible, and I'm reading books constantly to sort of help me understand anything better that I can then apply to my life, right? So that's reading, savers, and then scribing, journaling, okay? So how do we get that subconscious involved? Well, we find what inspires us so much that we can leap beyond our limitations, and then we build goals around that, and then we keep applying ourselves towards that. So that's why I wrote The Miracle Morning Millionaires with Hal. So then the next piece about it that I think is critically important to me is your tribe. Who do you hang out with? Like, you cannot exceed the willingness of your tribe to become more. In other words, if your 4 buddies go drinking every Saturday and watch football and get hammered and then go home and have a hangover, and you stick with those 4 buddies, the odds are that's going to be your life for as long as you stick with that. So your tribe actually can be a choice, right? In the old days when we were born as beings, in the old days, we were probably in a village of about 150 people. You didn't really get a choice. There were probably 20 people your age. You got to go run around with them. Whatever they did, you did. That was it. You had those 20 relationships for life. Today we live in a very complex and interconnected world. There's how many people in Philadelphia? 4 million? 5 million? There's a lot of choices. So the challenge is that our old program, our subconscious human programming, is to just keep going with whoever we are with. Because that's the program that came to you from 1,000 years ago when there was 150 people in the village. But if you truly want to grow, then your peers matter incredibly. Your mentors matter incredibly. Who do you hang out with? How can you stretch yourself to a new level of being by transforming the world of the people you live in, right? Again, a trick, a hack to get to a higher level with your subconscious mind. One of the things I do is I reach out to mentors constantly in Austin, Texas. I reach out to guys that I look up to. I ask them what would I take? Here's my email. Jeff Serra is a very well-known venture capitalist in Austin, does a lot with charity, a lot with the homeless, a lot with Habitat for Humanity. My email to him was, hey Jeff, I've heard great things about you. I'd like to take you to coffee. What would it take for me to earn the right to have coffee with you? So he agreed to have coffee with me, pushed me off for quite a while, but eventually agreed. And now today we're friends and we see each other about once a quarter. Alex Smith is another one. Gary Keller could be another one. So you reach out for people that are examples to look up to, and then you change your peer of circles. Again, this is only if you're interested in transforming your life towards something greater. All right? So I want you guys to close your eyes for a second and think about somebody that you love, somebody that's amazing, somebody that inspires you, somebody that touches you. And then, you got them? Now turn to the person on your right and tell the person on your right 1 or 2 traits about that person that you most love. Go. All right. By the way, if you don't have anybody, that's tough, man. That's tough. All right, come on back to me now. Come on back. What did you say? Give me some traits that you love. Give me some traits that you love. What's that? Giving. Hal Elrod just gave 5,000 to that lady. That's why I love Hal Elrod. Give it up for Hal Elrod, everybody. Giving. What else? Other traits you love. Deliberate. By the way, it was easier for you guys to think about the shoes and the cars and the vacations because I could read the energy of the room than deliberate. Is that what you said? And what does that mean to you? Nice. Considerate and thoughtful. One more. Authentic. Beautiful. I love authentic. Anything else? Right. So those traits are by the way, that should have been easier for you. Right? Maybe I've scared you off because I'm so crazy here on my subconscious, but it should be easier to you. Those traits are the traits you want to suck into your life. And you bring them in by hanging out with the right people. And if the people you're hanging out with are superficial and shallow and crass, you need to get new people. Nobody said you had to remain best friends with your high school buddies for the rest of your life. Your high school friends are not a death sentence. And if you want to transform, you have to step out of your comfort zone and get into a new environment. You need mentors, you need teachers, people that will bring you along. And then the other thing that I do a lot of, other than just reading my goals, is expose myself to new material. So whether it's at church, whether it's from a book, whether it's from a podcast, constantly absorbing new material and then trying to bring that back to my world. So I use that to transform myself, and the journey is amazing and I'm still on it. And the reason, as the guy said last night, I'm super committed now to being a better father and a better husband. I actually told my wife a couple days ago, as much as I've loved you for 18 years that we've dated, I feel like I'm just on the precipice of discovering a way to be closer to you and love you at an even deeper level than I've ever loved you before. She was actually scared. She's like, wait a second, what are you talking about? She knows how I am. So now in my book list, I've gone from 1 relationship book to 3 relationship books, and I'm listening to more podcasts on relationship. Esther Perez, if you guys know her. So, all right, that's kind of how I've constantly transformed. Then the exercise, and then the other thing you do is you hire coaches. You put yourself around the right people. You have a physical coach. You have a nutrition coach. What you're trying to do is hack the way to make life excellent and awesome and easy. So one other thing I've done is, anyone heard of the Green Chef? You can order food from Green Chef. It's really not, it's cheaper than eating out, but more expensive than eating home. They bring us healthy organic meals, and they're just in a bag. They require about 10 or 15 minutes to prepare. So I have those in my refrigerator. What does that do? It causes me not to eat junk. The other thing we've done is try to eliminate, a lot of the processed food in our house. We still have a few cheats, but it's hard to get chips in our house. It's hard to get ice cream in our house. It's hard to get candy in our house. There is some, but there's not a lot. And what we put instead is, I have a countertop that has nuts on it. Anyone like nuts? You know that if you eat a handful of nuts a day, you on average have a 4-year longer lifespan, from the book The Blue Zones by Dan Buettner. So what we did once we learned that information, knowing the weakness of the body, knowing that if you put a Ben & Jerry's ice cream in front of me when I'm hungry, I'll eat it, I put a mason jar of every different kind of nut. And then when I'm hungry, I just go down and take a bunch of nuts. Dried fruit a little bit, which is a bit of a cheat. Just really creating the environment where it's healthy to be in that home. All right, there's a lot that I've done. The other thing is creating a vision for your future and just really digging into that vision. So, that's where I'm at. I'm going to open it up for questions. If you guys have any questions, I can take them. If not, I'll just keep rolling.
Back here in the back?
Yes, right there. Wait. You could do the Miracle Morning Millionaires. The Miracle Morning. Yeah, you wake up, you own the morning to own the day. So if you wake up early, you think about what you want to accomplish. Really, there's another concept in my other book, Wealth Can't Wait, called air game, ground game, right? And this is one of my favorite concepts. And again, it's just a slight modification of things I've learned from other people. So what's your ground game? Your ground game is what you do naturally. Your ground game is what you wake up and do every day naturally. So ground game would be, let's say you're a dentist, practicing dentistry. Your ground game would be getting up and having breakfast. Your ground game would be if you're a soccer player playing soccer. Ground game, the babies learn to walk, then they learn to crawl, and then they, crawl, walk, and then they get to live, right? That's all ground game. So everything you do in life is your ground game. If you went to school to be a realtor and you become a realtor, that's all ground game. What's air game? Air game is stepping out of your life and getting to a 50,000 level, a foot like you're a satellite. And then you look down on your own life and you say, what's working and what's not working? What could I do better? What could I not do better? I think 95% of people spend their entire lives in their ground game, just living out their processes. But stepping out of your life, again, taking a journal, going somewhere private, somewhere peaceful, somewhere inspirational, and then writing down, okay, what can I do better at? What could I improve? How can I go to the next level in parenthood? I still, John so kindly said last night, I want to be a great dad. I have a 2-year-old. Anyone else got a 2-year-old? So let me tell you, I'm in best intentions. I'm going to go play with my boy today. 15 minutes into it, I'm like, somebody shoot me right now. I just cannot play with these cars and crash them together anymore. So it's not like it's easy. So I'm trying to read books. So I'm like, okay, what does it look like? And then the books will say, well, instead of just playing cars like he does, take him for a walk, because you like to go for a walk, or learn something new. Go take him swimming, do something, expose him to something new to try to create it more exciting, or just suck it up and do 25 minutes as long as you can crashing cars. So it's not like it's easy, but I know that intention for my air game is to spend time with my son. My daughter's 10, and I said to my wife last night on a text, I said, I think my daughter knows we love her very much because she acts love. She's very comfortable with us. She's very comfortable in her own skin. But I said, but I think she doesn't feel listened to. And the reason I think she doesn't feel listened to is she's quiet. She keeps to herself. She doesn't forthright with her opinion. Both my wife and I are pretty strong-willed. And I said to her, how can we make her, Bella, feel more listened to? And my wife's answer was, we should ask more questions. And I'm like, of course, we've been taught that before. We should ask more questions and quit telling. So again, this is my air game, stepping out and saying, okay, things are great. My daughter's loved. She's a beautiful spirit. She loves all her friends. She's very warm. And still asking myself, what would take it to the next level? Because you're either expanding in life or you're contracting. So the way I've lived my life is this. Once I got out of high school, in high school I was just a complete reactionary to everything that was pre-programmed into me. Dad was a Green Beret colonel. He was very disciplined. I acted out at school, got thrown out of a bunch of high schools. I was literally chaos. I came through that and I got into work at Keller Williams and I started opening businesses, after a long journey doing other things. And once I opened businesses, I realized I couldn't hide from the success. There's nowhere to hide when you open a business. Every direct result of a business is how you think. And I would go on to say that every direct result in your life, for the most part, other than unlucky circumstances, is how you think. Like almost everything reflected in your life right now has something to do with how you're choosing to move forward in life. Not necessarily think, but how you're choosing to move. What choices you've made, what choices you've embraced. So then as I got into real estate, you open a business, and if you're stupid running a business, you will lose money and go out of business. There's no two ways about it. And so then you're like, okay, I got to acquire new skills. What I have up to this point isn't working for me. How do I get a new skill? And then you go to a seminar taught by Gary Keller, or you read a book and you find something useful, like maybe having a budget for your business, or understanding the economic model, or learning how to hire incredibly talented people. And then you learn that, and you apply it, and then you bring that wisdom and knowledge back, and then suddenly what happens, your business gets better. And that was my direct experience of building all these franchises. I was terrible at it at first, but over time I got better and better. I can tell you the one thing I've learned on with my wife, this has really been, I'm proud of it, it's been 4 years, and my wife and I, my wife said to her friend the other day, she felt like we were getting on better than ever before. About 4 years ago, I read a book called Leadership and Self-Deception. Anyone read that book, Leadership and Self-Deception? So in that book it says, the minute you criticize somebody, you fall into a glass box with evidence all along the walls confirming your criticism. In other words, you say, one of my things, because I gave myself food poisoning twice in college, is I hate old food in the refrigerator. Clearly it doesn't bother my wife as much because she doesn't clear it out as much as I'd like. So for years I'd be like, please empty the food from the refrigerator. I fall into my box and I'm like, yeah, she doesn't do that. Oh yeah, I don't get enough greens. And oh yeah, we don't always have the dinner food on the... You see all this evidence supporting your claim. And what it said in this book is, if you want the food cleared out of the refrigerator, clean the damn food out of the refrigerator yourself. If you want food at a certain time in the morning, get that dang food yourself. No, your wife was not put on this planet, or anybody really, to be your servant or to do things the way you want them done. So once I got that, never criticize my wife became my mantra, right? So then I started living from this place of not criticizing my wife. And it was really hard, because when I felt very vindicated sometimes in what my criticism was. I felt very certain that I was right, but over time, I applied myself, and you know what I found happened? Our relationship got better. When I quit tearing the fabric of our relationship apart with criticisms that were my problem, not hers, we had a lot of conflict. And when I put that together and said, it's not your job to make me happy, it's my job to make me happy, and anything that I want is on me, we slowly began to heal. And I'm a lot further down that road than I was. I still occasionally have a critical... And the most difficult thing, guys, is when they haven't read the book and they're still criticizing you. Because you don't get to criticize back. That's not the message from the book. And it works in every area of your life. Don't look at what's wrong, look at what's right, and then ask yourself how to improve beyond what's already working. So that's been a transformative process. It's taken me 4 years, and I'm still on that journey of learning to not criticize my wife. Now I have to learn to ask my kids more questions. But you'd say, well, that's crazy. Why would you be so willing to work like that to change things? Because the fruits of my labor are astonishing. The fruits of my business success has created massive wealth for me, and it didn't start with who I was. The kid that I was, the green corn that I was back in the day when I started all this, could not be as successful as I am today. I've had to change from that kid to the person I am today. And in the same way with my wife, what I've noticed is, since I've started treating her this way, I have this more loving being in my life. I feel closer to her. I'm more in love with her than I've been since we met. I have better sex than I've had. Oh, I probably shouldn't say that here. The point is that the work I'm putting in is having a payoff. And because I know this works in work, I know that it works in health, and I know it works in my relationship, I'm willing to slowly just kind of reconstruct what's going on up here to get it better out there. And that was a long answer to your question. But it starts in the morning. Like, the morning is the most important time to capture this. Imagine if you've gotten up and it's, like I usually get up between 5 and 6, so let's say it's 5:30, and now it's 6:30, and I've already done 4 or 5 of the savers. I've read, I've visualized. By the way, I only visualize for a couple minutes, honestly. Hal put a wonderful thing in there called the 6-minute savers, where it's 1 minute on each thing. And I don't think you can do 1 minute of exercise and get away with it, but certainly sometimes affirmations, visualizations, I might just do 1 or 2 minutes. 15 minutes of reading something inspirational, journaling, which I've been doing for a long time, and then hit the exercise a little later. And if you've just done 4 or 5 of those, you're ahead. You're ready to win the day. Yes? Great question. So she said, how do you hold yourself accountable when you're in the process of changing? And that is such a great question. So let me tell you, I'm glad you asked it. Because all the good intentions in the world are worth naught if you're not held accountable. By the way, as the son of a Green Beret, accountability and discipline used to be my 2 least favorite words growing up. But today, they're my favorite words. Like, I understand everything comes from accountability and discipline. So how do you do it? Well, early in my career, it was coaches. I had a lot of coaches. I was 6 years with Fred Gross. I had Gary Keller as a coach for years. I hired a lot of different coaches, Alan Toppy, Dave Jenks, Mo Anderson was one of my coaches. So the number one thing is coaching. Like what I tell you, if you hate exercising, why don't you have a hot personal trainer come ring your doorbell at 6 o'clock in the morning? Make sure it's okay with your spouse. But let's say you're a lady and there's this good-looking guy who's an incredible physical specimen and he shows up at 6 o'clock. What are you going to do? Not open the door? Like, I believe in forcing accountability. I believe in creating an environment where it's easy to do the things you want to do because I'm as lazy or as procrastinator as anybody. So what do? I put situations in place. One of the things I do a lot, and I really believe in that in the beginning, was I said, you guys think of something that inspires you, is I went and climbed Kilimanjaro. I went to do the Downeyville downhill. I went heli skiing with Jeff Quinton in here. I'm not even that good a skier, but why do I do these things? Because I know if I'm going to go climb Kili, I don't want to embarrass myself. So when it's like exercise or don't exercise, I'm more likely to exercise because I have that slight fear that I'm going to die on a mountain. So by booking the trip 6 months in advance, you force yourself to go. So it's coaches, it's trips or rewards, like, okay, I'll go to Tuscany, but only if I work out 100 times. Or I'll take my family on a trip to the Grand Canyon, but only if I make 4 hours of prospecting calls. So I do a lot of bargaining with myself. I do a lot of rewards and punishments. And then the coaches. And then the second, and I think the more important piece, is your peers. So I was lucky enough to get taught a concept called peer partnership early on. Mike McCarthy is one of my peers, an amazing guy. I've really loved being a part of Mike's life and watching him grow. You underestimate Mike McCarthy at your own risk. He's such a guy committed to personal growth. His nickname is McLoving because he's so loving. I want him to move near me because he's such a good influence on his kids, the way he cares about his kids, the things he has them doing. So my point is, your peers matter a lot. Like, who is on your peer group? And I still have a group. I'm going to see him next week of Pat Hybe and Tim Rode and Mike and myself. And we sit down with our life plan, our goals, where we're on track, where we're off track. We do body fitness fat test before we go. We do our systolic, diastolic. We do where we are on a 1 to 10 in all these different areas of our lives. So peers are super important. That's what I started with really in this speech, right? Like, get rid of the people that are bad influences. You're not, your life will be directly related to who you hang out with. You'll be the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. Upgrade. If people aren't willing to grow, upgrade. You've got 2 choices: committed mediocrity or upgrade. Unless all of your friends also want to grow. And I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm not expecting everyone. I want the willingness to grow. I don't care if you're if you're doing nothing and then suddenly you're starting to work. That's willingness to grow. That's all I'm looking for, is people that are willing to grow and are not arguing for their own limitation. You guys know anyone that argues for their own limitation? Anyone ever argued for their own limitation? Like, I would work out, but it's just too difficult. I got too many responsibilities. I got kids. I get it. I would prospect more, but it's just too difficult, right? And everyone's going to do that some, but if you live there, if you've built your house in mediocrity, if you built your house in excuse, I don't want you in my life. If you have excuses, but you're open to the feedback of transformation, then I'm with you. It's way easier to transform with people willing to transform. So your peers, your coaches, and you can hire people like $60 an hour to come change your life. Personal fitness trainers, $60 an hour. And then the third one is the goals and the vision board, and reviewing that, and looking at it on a regular basis. I'm a huge believer that you change from the outside in, not the inside out. The willingness to change comes from the inside out, and then almost everything else requires the outside in. So reviewing my goals, writing those inspirational things down, reminding myself why I'm doing all this. Somebody said to me last night, how do you keep changing and growing? Because I sit down and I say, what would it take for me to be inspired about next year? I've already accomplished a lot. I could just quit right now and just be done. But I want to know what would be difficult, what would inspire me to change next year, because life is in the transformation. Life does not exist in fear, protectiveness, and protection and limitation. All right, other questions? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So his question is, and it's a great question, if you're killing it in one area and you just put the throttle to the metal, like, and we all do this, a lot of people do this in work. So you're crushing it at work. You stop working out. You stop returning your calls to your family or whatever. You're just crushing it at work, right? How do you keep all the other areas in balance? And for sure, I have been massively out of balance before, which is why my girlfriend said dating me was like being in the back of my car, right? And I guess I'm just lucky enough that she hung in there with me, because most people probably wouldn't have hung in. But she did. She hung in there with me. So I'm not going to stand up here and be like a preacher. I'm going to be like honest that I've been massively out of balance before. But that was kind of my 20s, my 30s. And in my 40s, as I began to have a family and kids, I began to see the importance, the direct correlation between the amount of time I spent with my family and the pain, the love or the pain I got from them in response. And so I just put it into my flight plan, long story short. So in my flight plan, I've got all these things that I want to do that I'm looking at every day. I'm reminding myself of what I came up with in a heightened state when I was inspired, when my spirit was coming alive. Not my mind, but my spirit. And it says here, epic family vacation. Haven't done it yet. We're going to go to Greece this year. Last year we did the Northern Lights in Iceland, right? The year before we did the eclipse at Jackson Hole. So I make sure that every year I've got something booked in that me and my family are completely excited by, right? So that's one. Workouts, just like the discipline of that, is like the coach or the trainer coming to your house is one way to make it happen. But understand this, all the money in the world won't make up for screwing up all the other areas of your life. The wealthy man who's sick would give all his money away to get his health back. The guys that are divorced and you want to lose a lot of money, get divorced. All the guys that are divorced or don't have a relationship with their kids, like, how is that? Like, is that a win? So reminding yourself of that and then booking it in your schedule, and ask yourself constantly, is my schedule representing my life? That's the one piece you had. And then the second piece was complacency. Well, it's easy to get complacent, but not if you're around aspirational people on a continuous basis. So the way I keep from getting complacent, I have a Tribe Go Abundance. We get together with fully aspirational people at all times. I'm trying to be around up-and-comers. I offer myself out for mentorship. I had a kid reach out to me from Africa, from South Africa, that I'd never met before on Facebook, said, hey, I read your book. What would it take for you to mentor me? So I said, go read As a Man Thinketh and Think and Grow Rich. And he read them in 2 weeks. So I had a Skype call with a kid from Africa, 26 years old, trying to figure his way out of a less economically vibrant society and how to get ahead. And that inspires me. What? What's that? M1, baby. Yeah, there you go. So that's inspirational people. When I was depressed, and by the way, coming up, I'd have a lot of like lulls where things were kind of flat. The wind had gone out of my sails. I was stuck in the middle of a lull. And I'd go see Tony Robbins. I used to love Tony Robbins for that. Today I don't need it anymore because I'm pretty self-motivated. But I would say there was wide patches in my 20s and 30s where I would have to find outside stimulation to reignite the engines. Gary Keller used to be great for, or is great for that also. Yes? No. So understand the journey, and I want to stand up here and be like, this is so easy, because it's not. It's only easy because I've been applying myself for 30 years to this process. And by the way, I was a terrible student, got thrown out of 3 high schools, graduated from UT with a 2.2 degree. So it's not like I was born as an academic or one of those kids that was born that was like super ambitious from day one. But what I figured out as I've started applying myself, the fruits of this effort, to understand you cannot transform from your old behaviors. You have to transform from choice and inspiration and aspiration and lean yourself into something new and exciting. I don't know how much longer I got. Anybody? John? We're good? Give me some more questions. Yes, sir. Blue shirt.
Thanks for being here, David.
My pleasure.
Can you touch on some of the concepts in Wealth Can't Wait? Specifically, you kind of told the story through the book of your father, and then you make all this money and you've done certainly enough in your life. You could shut it all down. and why maybe that's not fulfilling. And I'm also curious what you're up to these days, other than your family, maybe contribution based, that really lights you up.
So thank you, great question. So first off, here's the game of wealth. You add value to the marketplace, you get paid. That's step one. The more you can add value to the marketplace, the more you're going to get paid. The second step is to live below your means. The third step is to take your capital and invest it in an asset that yields you a return. The more capital you have to invest, the more your yield will be. Your number one goal should be to become financially free through cash flowing assets that you own that pay you on a monthly basis, in my opinion. There's other ways to do it, but that's my opinion. So in my opinion, you're in the greatest industry ever. There's more money made in real estate than any place else. Who in here owns a rental property? Hold your hand high. Good. I mean, it's hard. So my belief is if you're in real estate, if I hadn't owned franchises, I have 100 single family homes right now, I'd probably have 1,000 of them or 500 of them. I'd have taken all my money and put them into single family rentals. So understanding the game is just like the game of health, right? The game of wealth is earn, save, invest capital for a return. That's the game. So that was the first part of your question. So I mean, the guys that I see in the real estate offices that win are the ones that figure out how to own and invest in property. And I'm not talking about flipping, although flipping is a good way to get a higher commission, because when you flip a property, you make more money and you get a bigger commission. It's still just a job. But I have these homes, they just sit there, and every day my tenants are paying down my mortgages, and every day they're going up a few percentage points in value, right? So that's what you want to do, is plant trees and manage orchards. So the idea of planting trees is when I'm looking at an investment property, I have to analyze it. That's a lot of work. I'm digging the hole. And if it doesn't work out, I just have a hole, right? But I put in the work. One of my rules is to look at 100 deals a year. I would encourage you to put that as one of your goals, to look at 100 deals a year. Because if you're not looking at deals, how will you know a good deal when it shows up? And somebody says, well, I don't have any money. Well, that's okay. If you don't have any money to look at deals, still look at deals. You've got to have the expertise programmed into your being to be ready to buy. And if you have money but no deal expertise, then how will you do good deals? So digging the hole is like analyzing each deal. Digging 100 holes to find one, throw a seed in it, bury it, water it, and then it bears fruit. And your goal is to have an orchard. Managing an orchard is 5 rental properties or 6 rental properties that feed you for a lifetime. So I know it's not easy right now too. I'm very clear that we are at the peak of a long bull market. So I would encourage you to be extra careful. There's still deals out there, but I'd encourage you to be extra careful. But in the downturn, that was the time to move. So what's the one thing you could do now is just accumulate capital and be ready for that. Your second question is, how do you stay inspired? And that was also a question we kind of had last night. And again, it goes to the same thing. I just close my eyes and ask, what could I do that would inspire me to move forward? And so, one of my goals is to give away a large amount of money. So one of my goals is to give away, just keep figuring out how to give away money, and try to give away every penny I've made up to this point while increasing my net worth. So that's kind of fun. That's a new game. The other thing is being a better dad and being a better husband. That's complex. It was way easier to make money. Don't you think? I mean, being a good husband is a lifetime effort. I'm also excited about the community I'm in with the Acton kids, the kids that my kids go to school with, and seeing how I can influence my community to be for the better. So, I wrote the first book. My goal is to write 10 books. So I'm just looking for things that challenge me and take me outside of my comfort zone and take me to another level. I'm constantly looking for that because I know complacency, which the other guy talked about. What is complacency? It's like a mini death, like distraction. Do you want to be alive or do you just want to be not dead? Right? So what is the difference? Not dead, watching TV, drinking, doing whatever you do, the escapism to get away from it all. Alive, pursuing aspiration, trying to find something to transform. It's okay to take little breaks if you have your guilty pleasure, like Game of Thrones is coming back on. Anyone excited about that? But don't let TV be your life, Don't let distraction be your life. Yeah. All right, one more question, then we'll wrap it up. Nope, all done? Come on up, guys.
Let's give it.